It worked. We did it. Hello, chat.
We did it.
We did it. We're so back. Hold on.
Congrats, guys. This is a real big success. Glad we did this.
Huge. Huge.
$1 more expensive. Yeah, I mean, but it's worth it. I seriously looked at my TV after playing on the Switch OLED for a while and was just kind of like, do I upgrade?
See, I'm still rocking my base. Like literally, I have the same Switch I've had since launch, and I saw the OLED. But I'm like, I'm holding out for the next console at this point. I feel like
at this point,
yeah, it's coming.
Well, it feels like you prefer playing docked anyways. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I also gave that advice to people 2 years ago. Like, oh, it's gonna be here any day now. Just hold out. They're still having their OG Switch.
Still waiting.
Still any day.
I mean, yeah, that could be the big announcement at the Game Awards.
Well, I see.
Peggle
what I'm wondering
and
is,
Switch too.
Well, I wonder because Nintendo did like their financial reports where they announced all that stuff, and they said like they want to like go beyond like console lifespan, or like they want to like move past the concept of console lifespan.
Yeah.
So I feel like at least like I feel like guaranteed whatever's next, it's gonna like support Switch and whatever it is. You know what I mean? I feel like it has to.
Alpha Lion's just I'm in the same boat. We just gotta write it out.
Yeah.
Just write it out. You can
Nintendo
get new Switch Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
I feel like that was supposed to be like the nice thing about owning a Switch is that like if your Switch feels old, just get new Joy-Cons. And it's like having a new system.
How true did that end up being with Drift?
I've only ever had to replace my Joy-Cons once, so thankfully, because I remember I was trying to play Nintendo Switch Sports, terrible game by the way. I was trying to play Nintendo Switch Sports and I had to get new Joy-Cons because the drift was so bad I couldn't even control the game.
Oh my god.
I didn't hit drift so hard until like maybe 2 years into owning my original Switch, and that was when. But I think the thing that really started killing me was like I could tell that the sticks in general, like I would get one Joy-Con that's perfectly fine, and then the right Joy-Con, for example, you could just like go in circles and you could see like a character running until you hit a certain spot, and then suddenly they just look like they're walking again. And you're just kind of, oh no.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I only had drift, I think, happen one time, and I was able to fix it with that like compressed air trick. I don't know if people still do that, but back in the day, that was like the hot way to fix Joy-Con drift. But I have this other issue with my Animal Crossing Joy-Con where the sliders like don't lock when you put it on the console, and so I'm playing I'm getting really into a game, and then like it slides up and it disconnects. It drives me crazy, and I don't want to like call in to fix it because what if I can't get the Animal Crossing Joy-Con back because it's a special edition?
That's been
usually
yeah. I was gonna say it's been crazy how often I can still find an Animal Crossing Switch out in the wild.
I was talking to someone about this earlier today. I think they like made a bunch, and then because of how successful Animal Crossing was, because worldwide pandemic was perfectly timed for that, I think they like kept manufacturing longer than originally planned because it is the most plentiful. I was talking to a local game store, and he was saying that we're not even really interested in taking those in because they're just everywhere.
It kind of reminds me of how they flooded the market with Animal Crossing amiibos. They're everywhere still. They're like 6 years old and they're still on shelves.
I won because when Amiibo or whatever that board game was,
Amiibo Party.
Festival.
Yeah,
When
Amiibo Festival came out,
yeah.
we bought it. My wife wanted to get all of them, all of the Amiibo, and stores could not like get rid of them. They were so overstocked. Like I remember that's the first time.
Below at one point.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever like. We went to a Toys R Us, God rest his soul, and we saw them in a bargain bin. And I was like, I've never seen Amiibo in a bargain bin. And we bought all of them. And then as soon as, I think it was even like as soon as the update for Animal Crossing 3DS, when that happened and they were like, oh yeah, like you might actually be able to use these Amiibo, that's when prices started skyrocketing again. Like the secondhand market suddenly was like, oh, you want these now? Good, because I have plenty.
No, my wife was the same way. We wanted to make sure we got a full set of Animal Crossing, including both versions of Isabelle. So we got I forget which game it was that came with 2 of them, but it was like,
I think it was Amiibo Festival.
We got the game for like $5.
Yeah.
Like we paid like almost nothing. And it's like, oh yeah, here's 2 Amiibo with it that like individually would probably sell for more than that.
Yeah. Like we got real lucky because I think by the time we'd finished collecting them, they had started going back up in price. So we were just kind of like, oh, that's like the luck. That's probably the second luckiest we've been in terms of like getting Amiibo.
Amiibo are a nightmare to get.
Series 3 Smash Brothers was.
So this was so long ago, but so I remember distinctly. I think I had work. Like I worked at a restaurant brunch in the morning. And it was the day that they had Jigglypuff only in Target. So I'm like, Mom, you need to go to Target at 10 a.m. to get me Jigglypuff because I can't get it. And she did, but it was like, God, the fact that I even had to do that is insane.
You gotta love moms. Moms will do anything.
Mom came in clutch to get me Jigglypuff, but still.
Great story.
I think that was around
she probably called it Kirby.
Yeah, give me the girl Kirby.
It's Kirby, like, oh,
girl
this is
Kirby.
It, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to moms.
I had a very similar experience again with my wife because she was at Vietnam in the time, and pre-orders for the Toys R Us Series 3 Amiibo went live at 3 a.m. Eastern for no reason other than like Toys R Us just didn't know what they were doing. And she just happened to be awake because it's not 3 a.m. where she is right now. So she saw the go lives and she was just kind of like, and so I woke up the next morning and was just like, yeah, I bought all of it. It's like, oh, nice. Wow. So we got real lucky. Mm-hmm. No wonder why Toys R Us went out of business. No, Toys R Us went out of business because of, well, it's also because of bad management, I guess. Yeah, pretty much.
I think some still around. It wasn't like it came back from the brink, and it's not like there's a bunch of them, but there's like a couple.
Yeah, I think there's like
in department stores now.
Yeah, there's like a small ones. Yeah.
Yeah, Macy's. So like, you go to any Macy's, and there's like little Toys R Us like areas inside. Yeah. Although I'm told they are like trying to officially come back this year or something. So I don't know.
Draft's coming back. It's gonna happen.
Look, if Best Buy is gonna stop selling
physical media,
then I guess I'm going back to Toys R Us and being weird about it.
Thankfully, they're only stopping Blu-ray for now. But I mean, I don't want them to stop that either. But at least it's not games yet.
No, they still don't have any plans to get rid of games because I still think they're like, we can at least get rid of these. But even when I've gone to Best Buy multiple times, their Blu-rays, their DVDs, like those are just very, very sad sections to be in.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot more people play physical games than do physical like movies. When's the last time that you watched a movie that wasn't like on a streaming service, you know?
Or like, I usually go to theater, but I don't buy like physical movies because I don't know. I don't really like go back to rewatch movies over and over as I do games.
Right.
I feel like there's been a small movement of people getting back into it just because also streaming services have now been great reminders of how sometimes people just take content away.
Yes.
True.
And in some of those situations, oh man, I hope you got a physical copy when it was still available. Like when HBO took away
it's not on any streaming service anymore, right?
Yeah. Like they got rid of Infinity Train, and it's like, oh, if you like that animation, best of luck getting a Blu-ray at this point because it's not cheap, or maybe it was even only DVD. That was Blu-ray. Yeah, I don't know. I think actually physical media
will always want it.
Yeah, collectors will want it, and like what's nice about it nowadays, I don't know if you actually even like have tried buying one, but you do get like a digital copy to go with it to add to certain services. So like, it's been my move lately, actually, to be honest. I've been getting more into physical media for movies because I've just gotten way too tired of, especially when it comes to animation. I love so many shows and certain animated films, and it's like if you missed out the window, guess what's gonna happen in 6 years when they decide we don't like this anymore.
When they decide tax season's coming. Yeah, that's kind of been the issue. And so like I will probably still continue to shop at Best Buy for games because that has always been like the more positive experience because I just rarely seem to have a problem with them.
Keep them in business.
Yeah, just me.
Keep them
that's it.
Physical games.
Yeah, I'm the only thing. I mean, the only things I bought at GameStop over the last 5 years has been like plushies. I haven't bought a single game from GameStop in 5 years.
They kind of pivoted to physical. Like if you go to a GameStop now, half the store is like Funko Pops and stuff like that. It's like
Back when I was working there back when they were trying to pivot to other things, and that was like they tried being a phone carrier. They were selling used.
That's
tablets.
right. I forgot.
I
forgot they had phones.
Yeah, and then that was they wanted to kind of go the FYE or whatever like direction of more physical stuff like plushies and that kind of thing. I think the last thing I got from a GameStop, I think I picked up the latest Fire Emblem because they had like a unique pre-order bonus or something. That was like the only time I've gone lately. Especially having worked there before, I have no desire to shop there.
It had been long enough for me where I'm just kind of like, I can at least walk back in here, but because like I don't think I worked for that company since like 2010 or something like that. And that was right when I had left. And I still remember my friend was still working there, and he was like, one of the other weird things that they tried to do, I think around that same time, was, let's turn all the point of sale systems around to face the customer. And so they can see like the screens that we're using in order to like plug things in. And we'll have all of the employees in front of the counter instead of behind the counter because we think that'll be a more personable experience. And my friend was just like, this can't work. There's no way that this could work. Like we're showing them things that they're legally not allowed to see. Like this is just so weird. Yeah. But yeah, I totally forgot there was a time when they were selling cell phones. All right. Well, unless there's any additional questions from chat, I think we can go ahead and take a quick break. I'm going to run some ads because I can. And then we are going to get ready to, do the actual DialogBOX episode. So we're going to talk about the Game Awards. We're going to talk about the nominees. We're going to talk about what we want to see, what we don't want to see. Preferably anybody talking about Bill Clinton. And we'll be back in a couple minutes just to talk about Geoff Keighley's Christmas Bash. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. It is episode 45 of DialogBOX. I'm your host, Laughingboy, and I am joined today by three very lovely guests. This has been quite a while since I've done this, so let me dust off my PC screen. We have YouTuber and content creator, hardware enthusiast Kevin Kenson here with us today. Hello.
Hello.
We have writer for Twinfinite, Geoff Keighley will be attending her funeral, I think, probably. We have Rebecca Stone with us today.
Hello.
And then finally, we have hobby journalist.
Yes. Professional journalist. And editor. Hello.
Technically, you almost were a reliable source of content.
Yes, reliable source of information for sure.
That's
right.
Hello.
For us.
And we've got Ultima with us tonight. How's everyone doing again?
Good. I'm doing well. I'm excited to sink into it because I think, like, when I was looking, I watched a video where they did all the nominees, and like when I was watching, I'm like, oh my god, like I actually have to think really hard about all these choices because, like, normally I feel like with the Game Awards, normally like. Even when there's like a lot of good games in a year, generally like when there's like a category, you're just like, oh, it's just that one. But I feel like I've actually genuinely played so many amazing games this year where it's like, oh man, even all the stuff I've played, it's like, oh, I don't know what to do.
This has been a wild year for games. It's like unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Games released wise, it's so good. There's a lot to work through.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to work through, and not only that, but like I feel like this is one of those rare occasions where even I kind of feel like, oh, wow, I can't believe such and such game didn't get added to a nominee list. And I think we all kind of feel that way about at least one or two games. That being said, like this has been one of the roughest years for me in terms of playing actually current games. Because I finally finished Forbidden West, and I looked at the time played, including Burning Shores. So technically, I did play a game in 2023 this year. I finished Burning Shores and everything else, and I have a complete time of 184 hours, which I know is not like a huge number for most games these days, but it's big for me. I don't really play like more than 100 hours like consciously. Like I know this game is going to be like 100 hours, so let's do it. I just tend to play like on accident. Yeah, I have thoughts on that game. You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have DialogBOX. This is a podcast where I bring in a couple of content creators and video game people, and I just get them to and force them to talk to me about video games for like about an hour and a half. You can watch the show live with video over at youtube.com/laughingboylp, and even join in the conversation in our live chat. Or you can get the audio only version by going to your favorite podcasting service and searching for DialogBOX, all one word, including Spotify. Spotify, Apple, all of them. They have ratings. Please rate the podcast.
Do it.
Please. You don't have to do it right now. Maybe like tomorrow.
Pause the podcast. Rate the podcast.
All right, hold on. Let's be right back. Okay.
Did you do it?
I did hit
there we go.
But we're back. That should give them enough time to figure it out. Yeah, just as Dad Alpha Lion said, 2023 was the year of no life games. I feel like that should have been 2020, but whatever. Here we are.
Yeah.
One was you were forced to make that choice, and this year was the like, no, I can throw away my free time. That's fine. I can fit all these games.
I can do it. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and check out all the live streams, again, where you can join in and chat, as well as the Q&A sessions, which are exclusive to the streams. We had a really good conversation where we talked about, it literally was like a cyclical conversation because we just talked about handheld devices, and it all came back to the PlayStation Vita. If you want to help financially support the channel, you can submit super chat messages if you'd like. We'll read them on air, so we can hear them both here and during the podcast for audio listeners, as well as becoming a member of the channel where you can use some awesome and exclusive emotes. You can also be part of the Discord where you'll get some, you'll get videos before other people, because that's the way that I think I can do it without having a Patreon. If you're not able to provide any financial support, that is A-okay. Just seeing you in chat or lurking makes me feel good. And there are plenty of other ways to help the channel out. Again, you can always just like the video. You can leave a comment after the video is over, or after the live stream is over. And then for the audio podcast, you can always check us out and leave a review. And Spotify, Apple does that. I'm sure there are others. Whichever is your favorite one. If it has a rating system, just hit 5. Don't unless it's out of 10, then hit 10. Don't hit 5 out of 10, please. So with all of that, housekeeping out of the way, let's just move on to our actual topic. It's another year has gone by. Geoff Keighley has risen from his slumber, from his fall-induced slumber.
His summer games coma.
Yeah. they just put him back.
They put him back in the ground.
Like in a big case, and they just shove him into a storage unit somewhere. And he's back. He's back with a vengeance. He's back and he's pissed. So we've got the Game Awards 2023. I think they said this is the 10th anniversary year, actually.
I think
Has it really been 10 years since the first one?
My goodness.
Yeah. Well, the problem is because there was this is the 10th year for this incarnation, because there was like a lot of people think, I forget what it was, like the Spike Awards or whatever.
Oh yeah.
There was like a previous existing, which I think he was a part of. I don't remember now, but yeah. So for Game Awards specifically, it's been 10 years. So they even did like a concert, I think, after Summer Games Fest.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, it is interesting to kind of have seen the Game Awards like kind of go from, it was originally something that was on Spike TV, and like that's during the Geoff Keighley era where he's like sitting in front of the Mountain Dew and Doritos like display.
Yes.
It's a very classic meme.
Doritos Pope.
The problem with that is that, or the thing that just makes it like Chef's Kiss is his just like his dead stare, just like the absolute, just like there's nothing there behind the eyes. You can tell he didn't want to be there either, and it's just kind of like, yep, that's gaming, and it's only gotten worse because now he's gonna do the Game Awards this year in Fortnite.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they announced it.
That's insane.
I think it's this year. Game Awards.
Like one of those like live concerts, but it's like gonna be with Geoff Keighley.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, right here from 3 hours ago.
What?
Hold on. Let me see if I can. I don't have. Shoot, this would have been perfect for me to have like shown you what this would look like. Hold on. Let me see if I can get this on the screen. Is Geoff gonna be rendered in UE4? Well, probably. Unless it's UE5. Yeah, no, they're doing Fortnite this time.
Yeah, it's an island, and then you just you can watch Geoff Keighley, and you get XP. Oh, that's crazy.
Oh boy.
Dude, this is the kind of stuff that's like, whenever people talk about what's doing the metaverse, like honestly, Fortnite's doing it before anyone else.
They
Like,
really are. They have everything.
yeah,
these
they've had
days.
concerts. They're doing award shows in it. They've done like big.
They
like,
have
did they do a movie premiere one time?
full
Like,
like
Oh,
cross
yeah.
characters from like every franchise, not just video games, but like you can play as all sorts.
Ariana
of
Grande.
That's right, the
Ariana
Ariana Grande chat. Yeah.
Oh
My favorite Final Fantasy character.
playable
That's
Geoff
true.
Keighley win.
I think he's a skin, like in the game. Like you can literally go buy Geoff Keighley in the Fortnite shop.
Wait, hold on. I'll be right back. Hold on. I
gotta
didn't
jump
know
on
you could do
this.
that. This has actually been the year I've gotten into Fortnite, so I was just kind of like, shit, I could be Geoff.
It's so worth it.
Cause wasn't that the thing from like last year? Is that they put his head as a skin in Among Us?
Yeah, he was a mask.
Mogan, yeah.
Mhm.
Good stuff.
Anything to get you to tune in, right?
Look, if anything, that picture of him standing in front of the Doritos and the Mountain Dew exemplifies like he is a man that is willing to do anything to follow his dreams.
True.
Yeah.
You gotta respect it.
We can all aspire to be more like Kojima's best friend, Geoff Keighley.
Oh boy.
Yeah, now we need a Kojima skin so we can play the Holy Duo.
Yes.
Oh, that's gonna be so good. Could you even imagine?
I don't think
Um,
the world is ready for that.
Coach, like,
I'm
yeah,
ready.
but as long as, like, but it has to be like, it'd be awesome if they like put Kojima in, but he's like low poly, like he just looks like a fucking old Metal Gear Solid character.
I think what I want is a Kojima skin, but if you have a Kojima skin and somebody else like you can't be in the same party as somebody with a Geoff Keighley skin.
Oh yeah.
Geoff is just like, we're best friends, and Kojima's just like, yeah. Geoff Keighley outfit for Street Fighter 6 avatars. Yeah, that's gonna be $100, please. Pay up. The licensing on Geoff Keighley is ridiculous. So yeah, 10th year anniversary. We've got a long list of games that came out this year. A lot of them actually pretty dang good. And I kind of wanted to. So first, we'll talk about some of the nomination categories. I think I feel like it's a little easy to start on Game of the Year. So maybe I kind of wanted to talk about some of the other ones first.
Yeah.
Kind of work our way up to that. And especially since I think at this point, everyone kind of has formed their big opinion on Game of the Year, because that's the only one that 100% of this chat probably knows what the Game of the Year nominations are. They probably don't all know what Best Sim and Strategy is, though. So, that's what we're here for. And then we'll talk about what we kind of are hoping to see again, like if there's going to be any like world premieres or
You do that voice way too well.
That is a really good voice.
It's really not even the fact that like it's the switch that you gotta do. I don't know. I've heard it way too many times. So especially watching a Geoff Keighley event. It's just that like every 5 minutes. Actually, I think it was an Xbox, conference.
Really,
That one
Yes.
was
Yeah.
that was my favorite one.
They always do. It's I think they stopped doing it now because now it's just the no voiceover title splash of coming to Game Pass whatever date. But
Yeah.
there was like a solid 2-3 years where it was every show was just like world premiere.
It's that, and my friend and I, we've memed about this for years between each other, because like ever since like even the older E3s, and they stopped doing it out, but like literally every presentation was like, for the first time ever, everything was for the first time ever, everything. It was so funny.
For the first time ever, this particular combination of buzzwords are all present in this game.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Those mountains, you can go there.
See that moon? You can fly to it.
Yeah, I mean that's always gonna be like our millennial like moment where it's just kind of like you young kids, you used to not be able to go to those mountains. That used to be a PNG. Actually, no, that was a JPEG because PNGs are too expensive on the CD-ROM.
There used to be invisible walls there.
There used to be, and now if you put in invisible walls, we just call you Naughty Dog. So let's talk about a couple of these. I think the first one that I kind of want to go over is best adaptation, and the only reason why I want to do this is because this is Mario.
I didn't even know that the Twisted Metal show like even came out. I don't think I've seen anybody talk about it.
This is why
I
saw some initial. I will say some of the initial takes I saw, and I didn't keep up with it. A few people I know were like, "Look, I'm not saying it's good." But it's kind of a lot more fun than you would expect. Like, it's just kind of like the dumb fun action of it. Because I know there was like that one preview that a lot of people were very negative reaction to, understandably. But as I understand it, if you like gave the show a shot, again, not exactly an award-winning performance, but it's kind of more dumb fun than I think some people were giving credit, as I understand it. I haven't given it a shot yet, so I don't know firsthand, but I saw a few people kind of defending it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it requires Peacock, so I just... And this is actually kind of why I wanted to get into it. So let's take a look at the adaptations. We've got Castlevania Nocturne, Gran Turismo, The Last of Us, the Super Mario Brothers movie, and the aforementioned Twisted Metal. And the reason why I was so intrigued by this is, I forgot that this was a category because it's new. It's actually...
it came out last year. And
last year was the first time.
It happened last year. They put a bunch of stuff that didn't come out last year, but they had to fill in the category.
It's a new category. We'll talk about that. I want to talk about fighting games in a minute, but they started doing like... The reason why I want to talk about it is because we have these 5 games, these 5 adaptations. I haven't personally seen Nocturne yet. That was a thing where I was like, oh shit, it's out.
Yeah, I love the original, like the original Castlevania anime. I really enjoyed it. I haven't had the time to watch Nocturne yet. But I really did like the original Castlevania anime a lot.
I have seen Nocturne. I've seen 3 out of the 5 of these. Gran Turismo and Twisted Metal, something about cars, I guess. I don't pay attention.
You'd be remiss for forgetting that Gran Turismo even came out because they barely advertised that thing either.
Oh, that's because it was during the strike, so none of the actors could. But what they would do is, I'm not even joking, they would like, here's the car from Gran Turismo. That's all the marketing can do. It's like, the Gran Turismo car, here it is.
It's not technically an actor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You just see a late night talk show like Seth Meyers, and there's just like, so what did you like most about the movie? So yeah, the thing that I thought was interesting was leaving out, and okay, so I'll just preface this by saying like, I'm not a huge fan of the man behind Five Nights at Freddy's. He makes some interesting choices with his life, but to not have this on here is a very interesting choice, and is actually what made me originally go and check where the cutoff date was.
I was just gonna say that did make the cutoff.
It made the cutoff.
It definitely was cut off. It was just chosen not to be here, and I'll tell you why. Because spoilers for Fighting Game, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 is on Fighting Game, and that came out like 6 days ago. I'm not even joking. It came out like 6 days ago. So they definitely just snubbed the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, which I honestly, I can't speak to Gran Turismo because I didn't see it. I did watch the FNAF movie. I thought it was fine. I didn't like. I'm not someone who has played those games or really knows too much about the lore. Like I've kind of absorbed it through osmosis, and I enjoyed the FNAF movie for what it was. That being said, like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know.
I heard the critics didn't like the
Critics were really hard on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's ultimately.
But I really like Josh Hutcherson, so that's why I want to see it because I love him. But yeah, I do feel like that is a one that is missing. I think in at least as far as notability goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think considering like the response that the general public has had towards like Twisted Metal, at least people talked about Twisted Metal, but the fact that Gran Turismo is on here is just kind of like, maybe the movie's good, I don't know. But when you look at Five Nights at Freddy's, it in its first weekend I think did like 78 million or something like that. It did very well
for itself. They made that movie on kind of a lower end of the budget because all the money went into the animatronics, and they definitely made their money back. I mean, but come on. I mean, the Mario movie literally just was the biggest animated thing ever. Like
the Mario movie, I feel like, to me personally, this is a toss-up between The Last of Us and the Mario Brothers movie. But it is so weird to me knowing, like, the fact that, like, Five Nights at Freddy's is number one, the highest grossing horror film this year. Just period. It beat everything.
Actually, that's crazy.
And it's only been out for so long.
Yeah. But the thing about these categories, right, is, I mean, it's exactly what Ultima was saying earlier about critics didn't like it. It's not as if Geoff is going like, all right, what are the five best-selling or most notable, like, I correct me if I'm wrong, the same panel that's doing the final votes for what wins each category, they also selected nominations, correct? Mm-hmm. So it's ultimately what the critics saw and what the critics enjoyed that make up these lists, which is why you sometimes get in these weird situations where, like, particularly niche games end up getting like blocked out because it's like, who played it out of the people that are on the panel?
That's true.
Yeah, like that's kind of the thing you run into. So even if sure, FNAF probably is making hand over fist crazy money, and it's a cultural thing, absolutely. But the people that are, you know, part of the process of picking ones are just like, that's not. I liked this one, you know, which is probably why Gran Turismo's on there, right? Because it didn't get advertised very well.
And I think that's important to keep in mind, not just for this category, but I think for the Game Awards in total. Like, this really isn't the best of awards. This is like the best of the most notable, which I guess all award shows are always going to be like that to some extent. But I think a lot of people take it way too personally if their game doesn't get nominated or win. And,
I mean, I have a whole.
You have to keep the context in mind.
Yeah, I have a whole thing about award shows in general. I'm not the biggest fan of them, just as a general concept, just because the idea of being able to declare this is the objective thing, and it's like there's no actual good metric you can do this by. If you do it by a critic panel, it's not going to line up with popular ideas. If you line it up with what's popular and like fan vote, it's just going to be a matter of what's the thing that has the widest appeal.
Memes.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Just like last year.
There's legitimately no good way. An individual person can be like, these are my favorite whatevers, but the moment you try to make it a official, these are our award shows where we're saying the thing that's the winner, it's all extremely debatable and doesn't actually mean anything.
I think
in the end. It really doesn't.
To go up, piggyback off of that, I've always felt like the genre, like, I don't know, video games are so fluid. I feel like a lot of times, like, they just pigeonhole. I feel like it's really hard to pin games against each other that are like totally different genres and different things. Like, I understand, so you have like a best fighting game category, like that makes sense. And then you get down to like, again, like just best blah, but it's like, yeah, these are all good for different reasons. You know what I mean? It's hard.
100%.
Favorite is when they combine like best racing and sports, and it's like those are two totally different types of games, and we're pitting them against each other.
Yeah, and you even look at genre confusion with what's on like this year's list, right? I've seen a lot of people. I don't agree with all these takes, but like there's a lot of arguments about best RPG because there's 2 action RPG games, and it's like, are those really the same thing? And then you have like 2 horror games that are part of action adventure, and it's like, why isn't horror its own category? That feels weird. It's just you're always going to have debates. There's no horror.
It's definitely not this year. Yeah, maybe I'm thinking
there's
something
action
else.
Adventure, which has both Resident Evil 4 and Alan Wake 2. So it's like, it's just the concept of genres and categories and that kind of thing. It's always going to be a mess because. Sure, some stuff very neatly falls in those piles, and then there's stuff that doesn't. and then people don't know what to do.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And then it always like sometimes I fall into it, especially with this conversation with like Five Nights at Freddy's too, is that I kind of fall into the trap of it may have been culturally significant, but does that necessarily make it like the thing of the year, right? Like, again, it was not like critically well received, or like even thinking back to the Game Awards 2020 when you had Animal Crossing on it, and what won officially that year? I have to think about that. Game of the year.
Oh, Last of Us Part 2.
Did that win?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
And that's one that I enjoyed that game, but that was a year where I was like, ah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a good point though, because I don't think Animal Crossing was the best game that year, but it was the most culturally significant game.
It was
that year.
absolutely the
True.
most culturally
Yeah.
significant game of that year. And yeah, like even that Alpha Lion's just like what is best action game anymore? And that's a tough category too, because like I'm trying to think of different genres of games, and like action adventure is so weird now. I mean, 30 years ago, whether people like it or not, we used to call Zelda an RPG.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
would call it that anymore, but that we did.
I mean, you can make arguments for it.
You
Especially
can.
the newest ones.
I'll fight.
Yeah, because I mean, it came from a genre of games that were trying to find a way to get out of the turn-based RPG formula. So technically, Legend of Zelda is almost kind of akin to an action RPG. So
It's funny because like I think RPG is such a broad term because it depends on how you define it.
Yeah.
Like I literally was having this argument yesterday because like clearly FF16 like action RPG, but it's only an RPG. It's not like in best action game category. And I was like, well, you could use the argument that like Spider-Man, because Spider-Man you level up,
That's
you have
true.
XP, you have equipment, you learn skills. Like why you could argue that Spider-Man is an RPG. Like it's so broad. It's such a broad term, and everyone has like their own definition on what constitutes RPG. You know.
Yeah.
So true.
I feel like when I see it used most often nowadays, especially when people talk about like RPG elements,
yeah,
progression
RPG
is
elements
the
was a
main
thing. Yeah.
that
Mhm.
really like it's like, do you level up? Is there gear? Is there like that tends to be what I see a lot of people associate with it. The thing is, again, you're completely right. So many different definitions are out there, but I feel like at least in the general energy out there, progression seems to be what people think defines RPG. When it's really not what a lot of the older ones were about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thus why Zelda could be considered. I mean, there's progression, you get new items, but your tunic changes twice. Big deal.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Yeah.
how do you pretend that experience exists in a game that doesn't have experience points? And that's like kind of what those games did, which then bleeds into like the Metroidvanias, because it's like, oh, like that kind of has roots in RPGs because you can try to go anywhere you want, but you're blocked in some ways, and it's all about exploration. And honestly, like, you've just given me an idea for another episode for the future, so thank you for that. What is an RPG? I'm sure there's been like a bunch of video essays about that too. So
Don't even get us
absolutely.
started on the definition of indie. That's the new hot topic.
Oh,
I saw that whole thing.
But yeah,
Oh,
They
we'll
were
get
still
there.
talking about it during Kind of Funny this morning because it was
They
such
got
a big
by the way.
argument.
We'll get there when we get there. They got community noted on Twitter over it,
Yep,
by the
they
way,
did.
which is
Oh my
insanely
God,
funny.
really?
Yeah, they put a community note saying this is not an indie game.
Yep.
We'll get there when we get there.
Oh no. Okay.
Which, on that note, I mean, I like Castlevania Nocturne a lot. That'd be my favorite adaptation. The thing we've been talking about the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, I gotta hop on
Yeah.
it because I really did like the original anime that was on Netflix, but I just feel like I still want to give it to the Mario movie because even though now I think people are harder on it than when it came out, I still think like, man, there was so much love put into that movie, and if my complaint with it was I wish it was longer, that's not a bad complaint to have, you know what
Definitely
I mean?
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not in that camp, but no, I get it. Like, I honestly, I'm expecting it to be the thing to win personally. I think Last of Us has a shot, and that's maybe like the upset. It's probably gonna be Mario movie is where my brain's at. It's not my personal pick, but like I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same way. Like, if I had to vote on one, I think I would vote for The Last of Us because
That's what I would vote for.
from start to finish, like, everyone talked about episode 3. everyone.
Yeah.
Like that episode got people who didn't care about The Last of Us or video game adaptations to just watch it.
Yes,
Because
I would
it was-
vote for it just solely on the premise of that I watched the entire thing with my mother, who does not like video games and hates the horror genre of like anything scary, any kind of like zombies, blood, gore, jump scares. She hates all of it, but she was captivated from the show from start to finish, and we really bonded over that, which was cool.
And I think like Dan Alpha Line in chat is definitely way too fast paced. We also need more Charlie Day Luigi. I think what I like the most about the Mario Brothers movie is like the potential is that it can do all these other things. Like they're already talking about a Donkey Kong Country movie or a Donkey Kong movie. They're talking about Luigi's Mansion and just kind of seeing like as the MCU is trying to figure itself out right now, it's having kind of a little bit of a slump. A lot of people were talking about, is this like the era of video game adaptations? Because again, why it's important to bring up this category is because there were so many good ones last year that they made it a category for the Game Awards.
Yeah.
And continuing on this year too.
Yeah, going on in the future, it's only going to be bigger. I mean, it feels like everything's getting an adaptation now. We're like in the peak era of video game adaptations. Like left and right, there's a new one.
I think there is something to be said, for the Mario movie, that it took them 35 years to like really get it right, and they did a great job with it, and it is kind of giving us that resurgence.
Yeah.
See you for the live action Zelda, everybody.
That honestly, could literally be the end of it.
Mario gives me more faith.
Yeah.
I think the Mario movie gives me way more faith about the Zelda movie than if like the Mario movie didn't exist and then they said, we're doing a live action Zelda. I would be like, hell no, like don't touch it, not a chance. But now I'm going in hesitantly optimistic.
Yeah.
I'm only being pessimistic because I know it's being produced by Sony and they can't produce a good movie if they produced 2, but I don't think it had anything to do with the producer. I
was about to say, like, Into the Spider-Verse has opinions about this.
Into the Spider-Verse is great. Saying. I don't think Avi Arad had anything to do with why that movie's any good.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I've heard good things about the director. I had a few people I talked to saying they really liked Maze Runners, which I guess was like the big thing he's done so far. Which is like I think a trilogy of movies. Yeah. So that's a better sign, I think, because a director's at least like that's a more directly attached thing.
Yeah.
The writer did Jurassic Park Evolution, which is awful, but they also did Detective Pikachu, and I didn't hate Detective Pikachu.
You know what? So. Yeah, that gives me some hope.
Yeah.
I like Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, it was good for what it was. I mean, I actually just played the game it was based off of, and I enjoyed the movie more. So,
the first one or Returns?
The first one. Yeah.
Okay. Mine's still sealed. I have Big Boy Pikachu somewhere up there on the shelf.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Just like Fairy Rock says in chat, I love the Mario movie. It wasn't especially deep or compelling, but it was fun. I had an ear-to-ear grin for almost the entire runtime. So yeah, I honestly like 3 of these adaptations are amazing from what people are saying critically, and then the other 2 just kind of came out. You still have to have Peacock to watch Twisted Metal. I'm sorry. So until that someday comes out on Blu-ray, just don't buy it from Best Buy because they won't have it. Moving on. Did we want to talk about? Let's see. I think. Rebecca, you had some thoughts about, was it innovation and accessibility? Or was it...
I do really like that category, and I'm not super familiar with how each of the games that were nominated this year have their,
Or maybe it was Games for Impact that you were talking about?
I like that category.
Yeah.
I will say, for briefly to touch on accessibility, there are a lot of cool options. I mean, I've played Hi-Fi Rush, I've played Mortal Kombat 1, I've played Spider-Man 2. They all have options to help people get into gaming. But I want to say the biggest one for me is Street Fighter 6, because I attended EVO, which is like the big fighting game mecca, event of the year. And there was someone who was blind. I'm serious, blind, and they were able to win at a big 1,000 person tournament in Street Fighter 6 because the accessibility was that good. I think that's insane. So I saw that happen. Like, I saw someone who was blind win at a fighting game at a major tournament. I think that's groundbreaking. So that's why I'm very strongly like feeling towards Street Fighter 6. Just even outside of that, I mean, just the way to help people get into games with all the control styles and everything. That's pretty much where I'm on the fence. But yeah, the fact that I saw someone who is visually impaired win at a fighting game like that, it was crazy and really nice to see.
I love to hear that. I love when games, and I'm glad that this award exists because I hope that, studios strive to win these types of awards. Just because I think that's such a big deal. And I like that you gave us a little bit of insight into what Street Fighter did because that's great. I love that. Bigger studios who are able to go the extra mile, I love it when they do.
Yeah, it's nice. I think gaming is something that's for everybody. Everyone should be able to enjoy it. So it's really cool that even something that normally where like you'd think your sight would be the most important thing, you can still do it well in Street Fighter 6. It's just awesome.
Yeah, even Aaron Jones, our very own Aaron Jones in chat saying Street Fighter 6 was way more than 1,000 entrants. So that's even more impressive. Yeah, I think there are certain things to be said about accessibility. Unfortunately, I have not personally played a lot of these games to kind of see. Kevin, I wondered if you had any thoughts on accessibility or for any of these particular categories.
To be honest, I don't. Well, I've played a lot of these. It's just not a feature I dive into as often and check out. I've heard a lot of positive things, both about Street Fighter 6, as was being mentioned earlier. I've also heard a lot of positivity about Hi-Fi Rush in particular. I'm not sure what it is for specifically. I imagine it has something to do with how the timing mechanics work and offering allowances to make that more accessible.
Yeah.
But it's
I do
not
wish for this category they would like get a little blurb on why this particular game was nominated. Like, you said maybe there are certain options that make it stand out from other games that don't have quite as many options. Like, what did they do that's so accessible?
Because I think last year was it, or maybe not last year, whatever year was Ratchet and Clank, I think, didn't that one win because it had the slow motion feature where everything can be played at a slower speed, allowing for
Ratchet and Clank. I actually just played that on. Yeah, I just played it on PC. They ported it to PC this year, and I looked at all their options. And Insomniac is really good with it. I mean, you hear see Insomniac here for Spider-Man 2. They're really good with their accessibility. Yeah, I think the only reason I was so big on Street Fighter is because like I saw that happen at Evo, and I'm like, oh my god, that's crazy. So
well, that's like a personal touch too. Like you were there to see that and experience it, right? So that immediately just makes it like stick in your head so much more.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Sony like first and second party studios tend to do really big for Game Awards, especially in terms of accessibility. I know that in terms of like Naughty Dog, I think in 2020 with Last of Us Part 2 had I think they won that year. God of War Ragnarok won 2022 for innovation and accessibility. I know just from personal experience that Forbidden West had a ton of customization options that you could do to not only make the game more accessible, but also approachable. Like a lot of the things that were kind of difficult about the game could be toned down in order for somebody that just kind of wants to get through the game, not have to worry about it so much. But yeah, that is something that I've very highly picked up on. Like, again, we were talking about like big studios that are putting their money into something like this. Sony tends to be doing that in spades and are very clearly getting rewarded for that effort. So I think that's really important. Let's see. I think one of the things I kind of wanted to talk about as an aside, what categories do you think are going to be bum rushed so that we can get to the next world premiere? Because I'm seeing best esports.
Best mobile game. Best mobile. They usually do rush through all the esports stuff. Best mobile game, I feel like it's all thing. They're just like, oh yeah, best mobile game.
Genshin Impact. All right, just go.
I think they usually also bypass because some of them also happen in the pre-show, and it won't even be like they bring a person up. It's just like, oh yeah, like hey, by the way, these guys won this. I think audio design tends to get left out because they'll do score during the show itself.
So like, oh, you know what? That sucks because audio design, especially this year, is probably the hard. I'm not even joking. It's the hardest category I had to vote in.
Well, and the thing is, like, yeah, you're right. Like, I mean, that's part of my beef with award shows sometimes is that like one of the things that should be a benefit of this is like bringing attention to people who have a role in creation outside of where eyes are usually on the most. Like, cool, yeah, like Street Fighter 6 wins best fighting game, awesome. But like, who on the team actually did a great job on audio design, or score or voice acting? Like, I feel like it's a really cool benefit to highlight specific people and not just like, hooray, hype game won hype award. And it really sucks when some of those things just get like totally sidelined by, yeah, anyways, this one this one this let's go to this trailer. Like,
and it really sucks. And I'm even kind of looking at this, and I feel like there are fewer categories, like in general, to vote on. And I remember just even watching the pre-show, like before the award show even starts, they were just like going through a bunch of categories. Like you didn't really even have time to digest it all. And I think esports might have been in that pre-show. So like the fact that they were going through awards during the not awards part of the award show was just so bizarre to me last year. And I feel like that was like one of my most negative things that I thought took place during that award show. It's just like, I can't believe that some of these, like, I would say that I would probably tell you that a lot of viewers probably do in some way care about Content Creator of the Year. I'm just going to throw that out there. I do think that there's probably a large swath of their viewers that probably do care about it. Mm-hmm. But I think even last year, it just kind of was like, Content Creator of the Year, this person. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Know who any of these are, like, and I would be interested if they actually took, like a couple minutes out of the show to like
explain them. Yeah, exactly.
Show me what they do. Mm-hmm. Then maybe I would maybe I would be interested. I don't know. I don't know. I need them to feed me the information. I clearly can go look them all up by myself, but like I feel like the show should tell me why I should care.
I think Dad Alpha Line's like also best family game usually gets skipped. Yeah, I think that's interesting
I
too.
have so many bones to pick with best family game because
let's talk about it.
Like it's just the Nintendo category, and almost always they pick a game that is like really not even a good family game. Like it doesn't have good local multiplayer or anything. Like it is just kind of
it's really funny because like I watched this and I'm like, Pikmin 4, like Pikmin 4 is awesome. But picture the second player has a cursor on the screen that they can use to throw rocks at enemies. That is not the little brother who gets that choice for family game is going to be so mad. He's not going to have fun.
And that is totally a family game.
You guys have for your family.
That's the family game I grew up with. So before we dive too far into this, I just want to state that our nominees for best family game, for you audio and technically video listeners out there, just in case you're not keeping up: Disney Illusion Island, Party Animals, Pikmin 4, Sonic Superstars, and Super Mario Brothers Wonder. I always have to remember to put the brothers in front of Wonder.
I know. Now, Super Mario Wonder sounds just so much better.
Pikmin 4 is the best game on this list, but it is not the best family game.
Right.
Anywhere in any competition.
Yeah.
I would never put I wouldn't nominate Sonic Superstars for anything, but
look, I enjoyed my time with Sonic Superstars, but like some of those boss fights, I'm like, if I was a kid and this is my first Sonic game and I got to those boss fights, I would never be a Sonic fan.
No way. That would complete. That's a formative gaming experience there too.
It is.
Mine was Super RPGs. Some other kids, Superstars.
Party Animals is fun. I've played it and I've had a blast, but like family game, that's like an online. It's like an online game.
It's like Gang Beasts with a budget. Yeah,
it's made by the same people or something. I don't know, but like it's just Gang Beasts with like a lot more mini games and stuff. I mean, it's fun. I enjoyed it, but like I don't see it as like a family game. I think the only option, I mean, that Disney Illusion Island game seemed really nice. It was like animated. It was like basically a multiplayer.
Isn't it a Metroidvania?
No, actually, it is.
It's a co-op game.
Honestly, it's my choice if I were to pick for family. Because
really,
few reasons. Co-op, yes. Metroidvania, no focus on combat. You only avoid enemies. There's no like hitting things or destroying them. Bosses are basically puzzles. But I think one of the really interesting things it does is for multiplayer, you can set individual health amounts, including infinite. So if you have like a really little kid, it can be like, all right, I'm the adult. I'm going to give myself 1 heart. So if I get hit, I die because I want that challenge. But the kid, yeah, they're getting infinite. Also, the cutest little dumb thing it does is that you can give hearts to other players. You can give a temporary bonus heart to another player by hugging them. So as long as
it's
you're
like Kirby with the
you can
kisses.
hug constantly.
That's
Yeah,
cute.
except instead of splitting health, it's just like, oh, you need a little extra. Here's a little barrier. I think it's a really well designed, like family co-op style game. Also, the
You
animations
sold
are
me on that.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I like
love
the
Super
art
Mario as
style
well.
of that.
But
Yeah,
if we're talking
Mario
about, like-
Wonder as well. I think what's crazy to me about Wonder was like, you know, I think genuinely like, okay, it's nice that there's no collision, and there's chiller experiences if you want to play Yoshi or Nabbit if you just are struggling. But like, genuinely speaking, like I think even the online element of that game is so nice because it's just like people. It's just like such a nice sense of like people helping you. Like, and I don't know, I don't. It's nice. It's not like the chaos of like older new Super Mario Bros. Where everyone's just like killing each other. You know.
That's true.
New Dark Souls Mario would be so supportive.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's different from
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's different from the Wii U days where you have the one friend with the gamepad that's creating blocks above you just to make sure you plummet down to your death.
Oh, we've come so far. Yeah, I think this is a very, like, when I look at party animals, I'm just kind of like, oh, that's not, to me, that's not a, like, best family game category. That's like best streamer game category. Like,
Yeah, it's a streamer game. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There should be a category of games that are just like, you know, like only up or getting over it or like streamer games.
yeah,
You know?
like, I feel like it's such an interesting category to say because I feel like that's not really selling a game to a mass audience. That's really selling really the content creator because it's kind of like watching clips of people get mad and getting over it or just people laughing their butts off watching people play party animals. Like, that is such a different experience from like a family game that I just
Yeah.
I couldn't in all consciousness put party animals in like a family game because I guess it's a multiplayer couch co-op game. If anything, you could also just call it like best couch co-op. But, you know, because that's what a Pikmin 4, yeah, I guess. But like, to a degree, that's kind of what this is. Like, what can all the family get together and play? Because if we're just talking about best family game, I think Mario Kart 8 would win every single year. Like,
In
Why
perpetuity.
isn't
just-
In
that
perpetuity.
game up for
Best ongoing?
game?
We-
Because
yes,
come
the
the game
on.
basically got a sequel.
Community support. Or community support. Like, I
Yeah,
don't
community
understand.
support.
No, ongoing
don't
game
know.
is super weird that didn't make that list for all the DLC that's been dropping. I don't that was weird to me
Yeah.
too.
Let's see. Any other thoughts or feelings about best family game? I think
I feel like
kinda...
it's between the Disney game or Mario. I think like that's just
I'll
clear.
I'll be
Yeah.
okay with either of them
Yeah.
getting it.
I would be shocked. Like, that would Party Animals would be the shocking one to me because like I just don't see people voting on Pikmin 4 for best family.
No, there's nothing.
I mean, that
family
would be a
about that
shock
game.
too, but I don't see it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would agree. It's probably between these two. I just see Mario Brothers Wonder probably just snagging that. Especially since it is more focused on couch co-op. It has a really nice asymmetric online experience, but it doesn't have like you can't play the same way unless you have like your friends on the couch with you. Let's see. So I think one of the things that I also noticed, we did talk about RPGs, so let's get into it. This is one of the few categories that I actually did see Sea of Stars in, surprisingly. So our nominees for best RPG are Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, Lies of P, Sea of Stars, and Starfield.
I thought Liza P was a Souls-like, so I'm kind of like surprised it was up here. But I guess it has RPG elements.
Yeah,
I mean, Souls
right.
like are kind of action RPG. Again, RPG
Yeah.
is a genre so broad and weird.
Yeah.
But it's Bloodborne, but not Bloodborne.
Mm-hmm.
With Pinocchio.
This is the only category that Starfield is up for.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm just saying.
Only one. I love that Hi-Fi Rush is up for so many things.
I do.
I have thoughts about that. Not that I think it's a bad game, but like I'm just thinking about Xbox in general. Like I tweeted about this a couple days ago, and I'm just kind of like, God, Xbox cannot catch a break this year, or like for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
That's true.
No,
Octopath Traveler isn't on here, huh?
That's true too.
Yeah, I
That's
heard
one
that
I'm
was
mad
the
about.
big snub.
That's a big snub. And it's again, it's because of what people consider RPG and what meets that requirement. And because if we're going to talk about like what was popular and well received and that kind of thing, and we're counting the action RPGs, I'm like, okay, yeah, I get why Lies of P is there over it. I get why even FF16 is there over it. Although honestly, if I was ranking them myself, I might put Octopath higher. But I get it a little bit more. But it just means that's just part of why the category is so weird, because it's such a broad term.
Yeah, I mean, I think like that's where I'm at, because like I'm not that like FF16 is like a bad game, but like when I think of an RPG in its purest form, it's like Baldur's Gate or Sea of Stars. It's like those are like the purest RPGs. Whereas like 16, Lies of P, they're in that action RPG elements sort of realm. Starfield is Starfield.
To be honest,
So
I
it's
think
a Bethesda game.
Like, if it doesn't win this or Best Indie, I will be so sad, because I think there are other categories that it should have been nominated for that it didn't.
It's going to win Indie. I don't see how it won't, to be honest. I mean, I like the other games on that list too, including everyone's favorite indie, but I guess not indie game, Dave the Diver. But it's got to win Indie. I just don't see how it wouldn't at this rate, but we'll see. I could be wrong.
Honestly, like I've been also trying to finish up with Live Alive, just because of like
that is such a good game.
It's so good.
I'm getting close. I'm on that chapter. But
man, that came out this year, that remake, huh? Damn, that was also so good.
I think it was last year. Yeah, it's officially last year. But like because we were talking about Octopath, and I was just kind of like, oh yeah, HD2D, which reminds me, when are we getting Dragon Quest 3? When are we getting that? Someday?
Oh, that's
it'll be in the show.
What about
It'll be in the show. You're right. Yeah, you're right. Copium.
They were on what, Dragon Quest 13? They announced like 2 years ago as well.
Yeah,
12. Yeah.
And they've
11.
said that, like, I think they've gone on the record being like, look, yeah, I know we said it was a thing that's happening and we gave you a logo, but don't wait too long.
No, we already finished development on it. It's done. Yeah,
it's been done for the years.
Yeah, the Pikmin story.
Yeah, because I mean they're doing all the spin-off games right now, and then Dragon Quest 3. Is there a title for that? Is it just 3?
We just know that it is called Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D.
HD 2D. Okay.
Yeah.
That's going to be the title. There's not going to be another title.
I think that's the project name, but also there's been lots of times where Square's like,
Project Octopath Traveler, and we just dropped the project.
Strategy, same deal.
Yeah.
Everything from the HD 2D developer has been that way, where they're just like, we're going to call it this. Never mind. It's the project name. It is.
I have a feeling that they'll probably do what Square has been doing with all their other remakes, where they just call it the name of the game. So it'll probably just come out and it's Dragon Quest 3. Like that's my assumption. But yeah, just to look at this list of games, I mean, I really like Final Fantasy 16. I really think it's gonna be Baldur's Gate or Sea of Stars.
It's gonna be Baldur's Gate.
Baldur's Gate 3, just like
it's gonna be Baldur's Gate.
I can't say it came out of nowhere, but like it kind of came out.
It did. Yeah, it's like a miracle. It's a miracle that game released like it did.
And like it's one of the top games being talked about for the game of the year. So when that's happening, and it's the one game on that list that's also in the category for best RPG, that kind of damns the whole situation.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are exceptions to that rule, because you're like, well, I think this did the best job of that genre, but this other game was better overall for XYZ reasons. But like the moment that one game on your list of best RPGs is also in Game of the Year, and it's one of the ones most talked about as probably going to be the one that wins.
Shucks.
Kind of a tough,
But good for Sea of Stars being on there, though, honestly.
Yeah.
The game's
I'm
incredible.
so happy that made it there.
Yeah.
I still need to get my hands on it.
I need to talk about the category that it did not get nominated for, that it absolutely should have. And I get so frustrated. Maybe it's me. Tell me if it's me. But the best art direction category, I always feel like never makes any sense to me with what is nominated and what wins. And it's a little bit better this year.
It's like
it's a little bit better, but like, okay, can I go off of what you said? Because I'm like, this is not to throw shade. Why is Tears of the Kingdom on here?
I completely agree with you. It should not be on there. I think that Sea of Stars should be in Tears of the Kingdom spot. It is not any innovative art direction, because it's exactly the same as Breath of the Wild. It's not any more creative. Sea of Stars is beautiful. Yes, it's pixel art, and I know a lot of people don't like that anymore, but like anybody who has seen the way that the daylight mechanic works, holy crap, the amount of like raw effort that went into just like that design is beautiful. It is the most gorgeous game. It's going to look so gorgeous in 20, 30 years from now. Breath of
Yeah,
the Wild's going to look like
pixel art
Yeah,
always has the ability to hold up better over time.
Oh
If-
yeah, absolutely.
It does, but like I could understand Tears of the Kingdom if like they visually overhauled over Breath of the Wild, but it's still Breath of the
They did
Wild.
not.
Like I'm so confused it's even there.
Well, art direction's weird too because it's like it's not necessarily the final look of the game as much as it is like, well, what was the concept going into this and what they're trying to achieve? Because obviously there's going to be games where like, yeah, Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, a lot of Switch games are at a disadvantage, right? Because they're not hitting the same power level or resolution as a lot of other titles.
I don't care
but I
about
would
that.
totally
I
agree.
just care about
Yeah.
stylized graphics. Don't show me
Yeah.
a game that looks like every other
Mhm.
game that's on the market right now.
Yeah,
Show me something that
100%.
you're taking your risk. Hi-Fi Rush is the only answer here to me.
I think too, what needs to be said especially is that Breath of the Wild could have definitely been on here as a category winner. But again, we're looking at Tears of the Kingdom from the perspective of not only has Breath of the Wild, not only is it just doing Breath of the Wild again in terms of art direction, but the Studio Ghibli look that everyone equated Breath of the Wild with has also started being done to death by competitors where everyone wants to kind of have the same look and feel. So
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom becomes not innovative simply because of the market that is trying to replicate what Breath of the Wild was, which for its time was innovative. Breath of the Wild went up against Persona 5 and Cuphead for Best Art Direction in 2017. See,
Wow,
even there, like,
that's
Cuphead's a
hard.
great choice.
Yeah, Cuphead's insanely good.
Yes.
And
That's-
even that
that's
had people
exactly
trying
what
to
I'm thinking.
redo it. So,
If other people are emulating this style, it's not a style that you see every day. Like all of these games look beautiful. Like I'm not denying Alan Wake looks gorgeous, Lies of P looks gorgeous, but like it looks like so many other games that are out there right now, and I so much prefer a stylized, unique, like we want to make our game stand out. We're taking risks. Hi-Fi Rush is the only game on the list that does this.
Yeah, I would say Mario Wonder looks fantastic, and I love the new style of everything. But I think,
too.
the reason why it feels like, so if Mario Wonder feels bigger than it actually is, because I think we were stuck with that plastic, lifeless new Super Mario Bros.
Yes.
Style for so long that when Mario Wonder came out and like we just added more animation and life and color, people were like, "Oh my god, this is incredible!" And it does look good, and it's great that they did that. But I think it feels bigger because we were stuck with something, so old for so long,
well, and even keep in mind that that's exactly what Breath of the Wild did for the Zelda series in more ways than one. Like, Super Mario Brothers Wonder did to the new Super Mario or the Mario 2D formula what Breath of the Wild did for the 3D Zelda formula. It was such a huge breath of fresh air, but even then, like, Tears of the Kingdom was something that not a lot of people were doing at that moment. Skyward Sword being like the closest example of like beautiful watercolors, pastels. Like, I still, like, to this day, I think Skyward Sword is one of the most beautiful Zelda games. And I still say that holds up, especially in 1080p. But Tears of the Kingdom still was like very innovative for what it did. And I would say that at least Super Mario Brothers Wonder could be on here for that particular reason as well. But yeah, like Alan Wake 2, Lies of P, I could see being up there.
I'm going to defend Alan Wake 2 on that one.
Yeah.
Because art direction in the sense of, yes, it is a game that is trying to look realistic in some ways and reflect parts of the real world, but also art direction in the sense of like set design and the way certain things in the world look and the bizarre, crazy transitions that game ends up having in some parts.
Yeah.
There's a lot on that side of art direction that I totally support also
that.
pushing style, which is why Sea of Stars, to me, absolutely should be on this list.
Mhm.
But even when we're talking about, oh, well, this game just looks like real life. If Alan Wake was somehow like a film, it should be up for like set design or art direction because of what it does on that aspect. Sure, again, looks like realism, but yeah, that's my defense on that one. I kind of feel like Hi-Fi Rush as well is probably my favorite. I'd say Alan Wake after that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it's hard to say which one would win this. I think if Tears of the Kingdom took it, I would probably be a little bit, like,
I would be.
Yeah.
It's my
Um,
least favorite choice for this one, and I like that game. I just
Yeah.
not for this.
it's also super subjective. Like art is, art and music, I think are far more subjective than something like best mobile game. Like you can kind of at least reason with like review scores and things like that, but like
It
what
is
what appeases
subjective.
my taste might be different from somebody else.
It is
Mhm.
subjective, but when the description for the category of best art direction is outstanding creative and or technical achievement,
Yeah.
Yeah.
um I think
Yeah.
the only argument you could make for Tears of the Kingdom fitting that is the technical achievement with the fact that when you are ascending through the like ceiling,
Oh yeah.
the whole world of the game is like loading through it, and that is a technical achievement, sure.
Well, I feel like
what about
that's that I feel like Tears of the Kingdom then should deserve like best game direction, because I feel like that is what that is. Like the
Yeah,
fact
you
that
could
they spent so
absolutely
much
make that.
time to spit
Yeah.
shine that system.
Yes, absolutely.
100%.
Mhm.
But what if they
Um,
just really like the way Zonai look?
Maybe they do. I mean, I do.
They are.
I
It's
mean,
pretty cool.
sure.
And yeah, Dead Alpha Line in chat was saying the bigger question mark for me is Tudek's nomination in best music. But I feel like this is also a very similar category to art direction. You still have Tears of the Kingdom on here. You have Hi-Fi Rush. You have Final Fantasy 16, Baldur's Gate 3, and Alan Wake 2. Nintendo literally spent a whole year playtesting and bug squashing. Yeah, I feel like that it deserves some nomination, at least the nomination for game direction. But in terms of
Yeah.
music, that's going to be tough for me because again, I feel like a lot of more
Yeah.
current generation games focus on aesthetic than an actual soundtrack.
Yeah,
to the
it's more about
point.
the environment. I mean, that's always what's
Yeah.
been my problem with Breath of the Wild's soundtrack. And I mean, Tears of the Kingdom's like, it's not like it's bad music, but it's more like atmospheric to like set.
Mhm.
Like, I think the only song I can like remember from Tears of the Kingdom specifically was like the one that they used in the trailers.
Yeah,
You know what I
the
mean?
saxophone,
Like-
hell yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, it's really hard because I think Hi-Fi Rush is the game itself, like lives or like it is the game is the score and the music, like literally the game is the score and the music. And then but 16, I think Soken. I mean, the fact that he was sick and did that music and it came out that incredible, I think that's amazing. Like I feel like that alone, you know, Soken going through what he did and to make that soundtrack, I think that's also incredible. So I'm sort of between those two right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a 5/16 for me. Like I walked away from that game with lightly mixed feelings in general, but there were a few specific things that really stood out to me that like to me are indisputably amazing about it, and the score is one of them.
Yeah.
I wasn't even aware of Soken's situation until afterwards because more people have brought it up with the nomination for best score. That's a great story to put on top of it, but just the work alone still speaks for itself. Like it is a phenomenal score. Doing both the combination of tracks that stand out on their own, but also do an excellent job of accenting what's happening on the screen, like action-wise or story-wise or environmentally. It just fantastic score. For me, there's no doubt it's that one. I love Hi-Fi Rush as well, and the music's great, and it's a core part of how the gameplay works. But yeah, the original score work on that game is just too good.
Yeah, I think it's hard for me to really talk about this one because I haven't played enough of the games besides Tears of the Kingdom to really have an opinion. And again, that one's still more about aesthetic and like. What's interesting is that I feel like if I just was like hanging out, like just trying to do studying or homework, and I just put on a Tears of the Kingdom soundtrack, I could probably then memorize like the tunes and stuff. Playing the game though, which I think is like the core part of why I would call it best score and music, like how does it make you feel when playing the game?
I almost feel like Tears of the Kingdom would be a better fit for the audio design category than soundtrack category.
That's true too. Yeah.
I'd buy that.
And it's not there. Yeah, that one ended up going to Hi-Fi Rush again, Dead Space, Alan Wake 2, Resident Evil 4, and Marvel Spider-Man 2. I think audio design tends to
it's so important, and people don't like think about it. Like to win sound design is like good. It's something you don't think about, like truly. But like to me, I mean, this is hard because both Dead Space and RE4. I mean, I haven't played anything with Alan Wake, so I can't speak to that. But with Dead Space and RE4, like any sort of horror situation, audio design is like insanely important. Like footsteps, noises, just the environment. It's really important to building environment, building tension. Hi-Fi Rush, again, I mean, the whole game is sound design and music, so it has to be really, really up there.
And where you would notice if it was bad. Or
exactly. And then Spider-Man 2 is interesting because the way that the controller, like the way noises come out of the controller, it's like the Wiimote has stuff come out of Wii, but they make it like integrated so naturally into the game where it's so cool. Like the controller making noises like it does in Spider-Man 2 is like genuinely so cool.
That is something I actually noticed with God of War Ragnarok, is that like it takes the opportunity. So like Resident Evil 4, which is a game I didn't actually play. I watched my friend play it. I was sitting next to him. Okay, that counts. Check out the streams. For Resident Evil 4, they mainly used the controller's sound speaker to just play audio that was being like relayed to you, so like phone messages and things like that. But then when I was playing God of War Ragnarok, I realized that the sounds that were coming out of the controller were not just like a voice or a person speaking. It was like the rattling of chains as you're walking. And I was like, what a weird but effective choice.
That's cool.
That was actually one of the things that made me really fall in love with some of the choices that Sony was making with the PS5 and the DualSense controller in particular, because the big showcase game when you first get the system is Astro's Playroom, and it does a ton of that stuff. There's all kinds of things where it's like, if you're walking on glass, you get the dings of how the metal touches the glass coming out of your controller, and it's paired with the way the more, what's the term, haptics, the way the haptics also hit with it. It comes together in this way that makes such a greater level of immersion than like traditional Rumble alone cannot do. And I love when teams are able to take advantage of that and do something interesting with it.
Yeah. And I feel like oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Or no, you go first.
I talk a lot, but one of the things I wanted to bring up is that initially looking at this category is that this is a category for horror games.
Absolutely.
And you can see that with 3 of them taking up spots.
Yeah.
But anyway, as you were saying, Rebecca.
I wanted to say that, and I guess this does count as audio design, right? With Spider-Man, I really like how all of the like NPCs are having their own individual conversations that are actually
they're really good.
Well thought out. Like I've seen clips of people stopping and like sitting there for like 5-10 minutes, and the dialogue doesn't repeat itself for a really long time. It's like the actors really had fun with it, and I think that adds such realism to the world. It's not something where, most games like this will just have like 1 or 2 stock lines for each character. Then they won't talk and they're just standing there. It's like,
it makes me wish.
This is so real.
Yeah, it makes me wish that best performance wasn't just for one person in particular.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like they put a lot of work into that.
Or something, yeah. What best voice direction, I guess, would maybe be the way you would like try to make that more general. Yeah.
I mean, what other game stands up to Spider-Man for that though? Like
Baldur's Gate, I guess.
I don't know, Watch Dogs or something.
There's so much dialogue in Baldur's Gate. It's actually crazy.
Okay, that's fair.
I will say, actually, if we're gonna do that in general, FF16, because I feel like is a traditional thing in a lot of RPGs where it's like, like all the cast sounds good, but then you talk to a random merchant and they are completely out of place. And 16, that did not happen. Like there were random unnamed NPCs as part of side quests that like nailed their lines and emotions. Like the overall voice acting in that game is phenomenal. I was saying that there are certain things I walked away with that game just like lift with me, and it's the score and the voice acting across the board. So
cool.
So before I move on, I think we're getting a little close to the wire here, but I wanted to just kind of take a moment and see, was there anything that any particular category that we haven't gone over that you really wanted to talk about? I think, was there any other like conversations that you wanted to have in terms of what you were surprised to see on this list versus what you were surprised was not on this list, before we get to like our Game of the Year opinions?
I will say, I do think, like, I think overall, I don't think there were. This year was a lot better in terms of like me off the top of my head. I wasn't thinking like, oh, this game got like super snubbed. Like, I think at least there were some snubs. There were a lot of things on there where I was like, oh yeah, at least this is like was recognized for something. The one thing I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I think community support is a category that bothers me in a way. Because I'm thinking about it, right? So the nominees were No Man's Sky, which is, I mean, that's been an ongoing game where like they fixed it. We all know how that game launched. They fixed it. Cyberpunk 2077 is there for the same reason, because that game launched horribly and now it's in a good state where they fixed it, right? And then you have like FF14 and Destiny 2, which are like, they continue to support, and Baldur's Gate. But I feel like it's so weird that you don't see things like Mario Kart or like even Sonic Frontiers that's like constantly getting updated based off feedback, or like, you know, Mario Kart's constantly getting updates. Like, it feels like it's such a weird category. Because, and then also it's like, yeah, they fixed the game, like in No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk, right? Like, yeah, they made the game better, but like, shouldn't it be that the game, like, should that be expected? Like, you know what I mean? Should it be expected that the game is like repaired and like actually made good, as opposed to like letting it rot? I don't know. Like, I think like, I am glad that both No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk are like really good now, because like a lot of people worked on those games and a lot of people worked hard to make it better. But it's like, it's weird that it's like, oh yeah, they actually fixed their game. Like, that should be the standard, you know? I don't know. I feel weird, you know, saying that, but I feel like that's just how I feel.
No, I would agree wholeheartedly.
I would prefer to see it maybe titled like best expansion or best DLC.
Best DLC, yeah, that's a good one.
Well, that's really more ongoing game though. Like, ongoing game is the like DLC or like more content coming out.
Well, is it though? Because I feel like there is a big difference between a live service game and like
Cyberpunk is on ongoing.
Yeah, Cyberpunk is on ongoing. I think that's primarily for DLC. But Mario Kart should have, in my opinion, Mario Kart should have definitely been on there too.
Yeah, Mario Kart should be on ongoing. Absolutely.
I think
I feel like community. I feel like community support is a lot more about like literal communication with the community. It's not just a matter of whether or not the game got updated, but it's more about like how they foster the community around it.
Yeah.
For me, Baldur's Gate wins this one.
What the explanation says, though, it says for outstanding development of ongoing content that evolves the
inclusive of social media activity and
community
game updates
support
and patches.
But Baldur's Gate 3 came out really well, and people already liked it at launch. So like, what's the community support?
Yeah, it was in early access. Wait, no. It absolutely deserves community support. That game was in early access for 3 years.
Oh, I did not know that.
I have been playing the game since 2020.
Dang.
And they have been on top of constantly talking to the community, taking people's feedback, constant adjustments to the game, very clear communication about whenever something went wrong or things they're trying to fix.
Yeah.
They absolutely nailed community support. That's for me, they're the winner on that one.
That's crazy. I had no idea it was early access.
That is very interesting.
I was in my head, I'm like, dude, it's crazy that this game launched like in such an amazing state, blah blah blah. But then it's like, oh yeah, well they were working with people and the community on it for like 3 years extra. You know what I mean? So...
Well, and it's like they were able to do that and release a game right on the first go around.
Yeah.
Because I think what you were saying earlier, Ultima, was it made me think about how like, I don't want this category to become the yay you fixed it category. Like it really is like Destiny 2 is on here, like No Man's Sky is still on here, and No Man's Sky was supposed to be this like pivotal moment for like awarding a team that took something that came out in a very poor state and then like within a year and a half like turned it around and made it better. But you have to remember, when No Man's Sky originally came out, it was like dead silent, and people wanted answers immediately.
People wanted their money back.
People wanted, and Sony was like, for the first time in their history, was offering refunds for a digital copy, and the entire time, Hello Games was just silent for like 6 months. So
even CD Projekt Red, I mean, not only did the last gen versions of Cyberpunk get pulled from the store, like it's infamous. The yellow card with just the text. That's an infamous. Like
people made fun of that for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Baldur's Gate, I mean, knowing what I do now about Baldur's Gate, I think that really changes my opinion on things. But also, I mean, I feel like it's always just going to be FF14. I mean, they have entire fan fest. They have entire cons for this game that they,
Yeah,
that's
true.
crazy.
It's like and again, that goes back to the yay you fixed it category, because that game also had one of the worst launches in MMO history, but they fixed it in over 10 years. It's one of I would have to assume it's probably one of the most profitable things going on for them right now.
True.
In the fact that like people are still invested in it long after like the main story has finally, I guess, ended. So like we're still continuing to see support for that game. Destiny 2, on the other hand, is a very touchy-feely subject at the moment, considering they just laid off a bunch of their developers. So like
I really feel for those developers. I mean, I can only imagine what it would be like if this does win Best Community Support after they have laid off the people who worked hard to make that nomination possible.
Yeah. It'll be a very interesting thing going forward. I would definitely agree with you, Kevin, on Baldur's Gate 3, knowing what I know now, that they had intense community support and that they were able to take that community support and make a game like very, very good, like when it comes out. Because I don't want to continue seeing like Dad Alpha Lion in chat. It's like I'm personally sick of fix it later being the standard approach. Like, do you think we're gonna see Pokemon Scarlet and Violet in like 2 years for this award?
That implies
No.
Yeah.
You're implying they'll fix it. What is
Hey, they fixed the boxes. They fixed the boxes. Get them, put them on an award right now.
Yep.
Yeah, God, what a mess. Yeah, it's just, I don't want to see that like continue to be the case. I would like to see best community support, and especially I think why we're championing like Mario Kart for something like this is because we got a new game.
They doubled the game at a cheap price.
At
no,
$25.
Get ongoing game.
And then we wouldn't even expect new characters or Mii outfits or anything, and they still kept updating it. Like they kept adding this, added that. Like, okay, we'll do it. Like that's awesome. It's the same with Sonic Frontiers, because I know like the game was fine. I mean, obviously it had its problems on release. Every DLC expansion was free. The last one that came out was huge, also free. And a lot of that expansion, even if it's a little bit rough around the edges, a lot of that expansion, you could look. Kishimoto, who was one of the directors on it, he was literally on Twitter during like the year that game's been out, like asking players for feedback, and a lot of what people told him was implemented into that last update. You know, I feel like that's something that also matters. But again, I think my main complaint is I just don't want to see that category, like we said, just they fixed it. That's, you know.
Yeah. Was there anything else that we wanted to talk about before we move on to Game of the Year?
Did we want to have the indie definition debate, or we because that's a whole can of worms.
We'll do it in December. We'll do it in December.
All I'll say is at this point, it's more like indie's like a vibe. Indie's just like a vibe.
Indie's a vibe, man.
It's a vibe.
It's
man.
a vibe.
This is you know, people say so retro. It's like, oh, it's so indie, dude.
Oh,
like,
that's so
what it's gonna
indie.
be like. You know what I mean?
It really reminds, I think, the what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I feel like people have been having the same debate for like movies as well. Like, what is an indie movie? And that's why I made the joke, Rebecca, on your tweet, where it's just like games with like indie, quote unquote, indie games with like some kind of substandard budget. We'll just call them like Fox Searchlight games. Like those are games that clearly like have an indie vibe to them, but it's got the money of a not indie. Like, this is not like a man with a hand camera running around creating a movie. Like, this has some money and some like stakeholders invested in it somehow. Like Annapurna is kind of like, you know, A24 exists and release these movies. Do we call those indie movies? If Annapurna releases a game, are we calling those indie games? And to some degree, yeah, you can. There's an argument. Yeah. Artsy fartsy.
Yeah.
So like, especially, I think the category is best debut indie game, right?
There's both.
Oh, there's two?
Debut indie. Yeah, there's debut indie, and then there's just straight up indie. And I think Dave the Diver is up for
make that
indie.
distinction.
which is
It's
like
on
part of
debut
the
indie,
argument.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave the Diver is probably just best indie if I can find it.
Yeah,
I can only find
Day the
best
Diver is
debut.
only on best indie. And then the Pizza Tower is on debut indie.
So that's why it's
Yeah.
independent. Yeah, Sea of Stars is
that's
best
actually-
independent. Cocoon's on both, and Viewfinder's on both, and Dredge is on both.
Yeah.
My favorite joke about independent too is the fact that if we're going strictly with the concept of what it means to be indie, Dave the Diver shouldn't exist, but Baldur's Gate 3 technically does, despite
Yeah, Baldur's Gate
massive
actually,
amounts of
yeah, Baldur's Gate technically is in more indie than Dave the Diver.
by definition.
Yeah, doesn't look like it though.
Even Dave the Diver's developers don't consider themselves to be indie. They have stated we're not indie.
Yeah. Debut has to be a studio's first game. That's possible. Let me check. For the best debut game created by a new independent studio, yes. So it whatever like Venba makes sense that it is here. Like Pizza
my
Tower
favorite
makes
song.
sense that it is here. I think Pizza Tower should win. I know a lot of people really
absolutely.
had good things to say about Dredge as well.
Cocoon was pretty popular.
Yeah,
Oh, Cocoon's great.
yeah, that was one that I just totally missed because I started hearing people talking about it and I was just like, wait, what? Cocoon?
Very under the radar, that one. I don't
Kind
know.
of a late release. It came out like
the Wilford Brimley
October?
movie.
I'm just happy Eternites isn't on here. Thank God. Thank God no Eternites. Oh, I won.
And then I think it's just funny to mention that best fighting game category wins again with God of Rock, Mortal Kombat 1, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, Pocket Bravery, and Street Fighter 6. At least these all look like actual fighting games.
Sifu in shambles right now.
Sifu in shambles.
Hey, best sim strategy. Like, so obviously, I really want Pikmin 4 to
Yeah.
win. Like, shout out to Advance Wars. That was like really the dark horse for me this year. I like begrudgingly reviewed that game, and I ended up really loving it. It was so much fun.
I'm glad it came out finally. Yeah, I love I was a bigger fan of like I played the ones on DS a lot, and I really enjoyed my time with Reboot Camp. I want to say I'm very happy it engages here. It kind of came out at the start of the year, and it kind of left people's radars kind of quickly, but it was very good. I enjoyed it more than Three Houses. I really did. So I was happy to see here, but not over Pikmin 4. No, Pikmin 4 is Ochi alone. Vote for Ochi.
a vote for Pikmin is a vote for Ochi.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I there wasn't anything else that like really stood out to me. We didn't talk about best performance, but I feel like that one's going to be tough for me because we had Ben Starr for Final Fantasy 16. We had Cameron Monaghan for Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Idris Elba for Phantom Liberty. Yuri Lowenthal for Spider-Man 2. Neil Newborn for Baldur's Gate 3. And Melanie Laird for Alan Wake 2.
I'm all on the Yuri Lowenthal train only because when Spider-Man, the first one came out in 2018, he didn't win it. So I feel like he's owed it this time, especially.
Yeah, that's true. I do remember him being up for it at least.
Baldur's Gate, obviously incredible. Ben Starr was amazing as well. But I think the coolest thing about Spider-Man specifically is the dialogue in that game. You know, they do 3 or 5 takes depending on. It's the same line, but it's is the character walking? Are they running? Are they fighting? Or there's literally different takes depending on every action that they're doing. That's insane.
Voice acting is hard.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for voice actors in my heart, so I'm always happy to see best performance. But I was I wish it could be expanded, best casting or direction or something, because there is more than one stand-up performance every year, you know.
That's true too.
Well, and voice direction would certainly encompass more what you were saying too about the idea of how they do so many different takes based on what's happening in game, right? Because it's that's a super cool, thorough thing to do. But also, was his actual performance still the best out of anyone, right? It was kind of two different things. And I would love to see an expansion where those are 2 separate categories, because both absolutely deserve to be have attention brought to them.
Yeah. All right.
Also, my vote
go
is
ahead.
Before we get to the game of the year, can I just say that this is the first year that my most anticipated game is not the next Legend of Zelda sequel to Breath of the Wild?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, what do we have here? Okay.
My most anticipated game is not on this list.
Okay. We have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hades 2, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Star Wars Outlaws, and Tekken 8. That's an interesting list.
It is. Persona 3 Reload was the one that I wish was on here over Star Wars. But I think for me, out of these, it has to be FF7 Rebirth because, like, Tekken 8, I love fighting games. I'm big on fighting games. I know what to expect from Tekken. I'm not into Yakuza quite yet. And Hades is another one where it's like we just don't know what to expect. Same with Rebirth, we don't know what to expect. You know what I mean? So those are like the 2 ones on my end for sure.
That's such a tough one for me too, because like my anticipated game of the year is like not everyone's anticipated game of the year or something like that. I think there's like a decent spread here too, but there's a part of me that's kind of like, sure, I have to assume somebody's hotly anticipating Star Wars Outlaws, but I also feel like this is kind of on here. Like there's a pessimism in me that feels like Star Wars Outlaws is on here because it was at Summer Games Fest. Like this is just more marketing.
I feel like this is the first year in a while that we haven't had something really big. Like I feel like Starfield has been looming for a few years.
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom was looming for a few years. Before that, Elden Ring had been looming for some time. Like
Spider-Man 2.
All of these are
yeah. The new
these
class.
Like,
I'd say for me, I'm kind of between Rebirth and Like a Dragon for very different reasons. I think I'm leaning towards Like a Dragon, and that's not the hype of having played Like a Dragon Gaiden just the other day. Speaking the recency bias, I think it's top for me. One that I understand why it's not on here, but at the same time I'm a little sad. Dragon's Dogma 2, because the first Dragon's Dogma was so good.
Oh yeah,
actually getting a sequel is very hype to me, but I get it. It's not really on radars the same way as a lot of these are.
I think if it was up to me, like my hotly anticipated game from this list is probably Rebirth. Having played Remake, I'm just kind of like, I'm really, really, really looking forward to seeing how this goes. But I also feel like what could win this would probably just wind up being either Rebirth or Hades 2. Like I think that there's a lot of fan fervor for the sequel to Hades, considering that especially Supergiant hasn't done a sequel to any of their titles before, so this would be a first for them to actually follow up on a world that they've already built, essentially, and expand it. Anything else?
Most anticipated is Mina the Hollower.
That is pretty good. That's a good choice.
Where's Silk Song?
Where's Silk Song?
Yeah,
I love that there's
that would honestly be on this list, to be honest.
There's just a general acceptance, I think, right now of like, we don't know when it's coming. We'll just wait for Team Cherry to say something. I don't know.
Yeah. Even Geoff Keighley's just like, to be anticipated means it's gonna come out at some point.
I do that having a Nintendo Indie World or whatever this morning. Of course, Silk Song trending again. It has to every time.
Silk Song in shambles. All right, so let's because there's a couple more questions that I have, so I want to kind of make sure we get to them. Let's talk about Game of the Year. So a lot of us that have been tuning into this probably already know what the Game of the Year nominees are. I think that this is a very, very interesting list to pick from, considering. But our Game of the Year nominees are Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, and then Super Mario Bros. Wonder and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Sorry, Hyrule Knight. There was no Prime 4 during the Indie Direct this morning.
Rebecca, how do you feel about like Tears of the Kingdom? Because like for me, it's like, man, I think as someone who didn't really like Breath of the Wild too much, I think Tears of the Kingdom is just so much better, and in gameplay wise, in every way, story wise is whatever. But gameplay wise, I enjoyed it, and I just remember when it was coming out and people were doing all these cool things. There were actual game developers who were like, how did they do this? Like, it's like wizardry. And I think that really stuck with me. I think but again, it's still built off Breath of the Wild. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how if we're like I don't know how to feel about it for Game of the Year,
It
right?
makes Breath of the Wild feel like a tech demo. It makes it feel like a beta version of the game. It really, to me, makes Breath of the Wild feel irrelevant, and I will probably never touch it again.
Wow.
I just think that Tears of the Kingdom builds on everything that Breath of the Wild did in a better way, and so I feel like if Breath of the Wild was Game of the Year material, it is obvious to me that Tears of the Kingdom should be in the conversation. And you're right. I feel like it in any other year it would be no contest. Just based off of the how influential with like developers talking about it, like you said. However, this was a very anomaly of a year with so many other great choices, so many great games to play, and I do feel like the conversation about this game went away faster than it probably would have in another release cycle, just because of the sheer number of really awesome games to play this year. So it's personally my game of the year, because I haven't played anything else on this list. But I can absolutely recognize, at the very least, that it's sitting next to some extremely deserving games to talk about.
Yeah, I think that was a thing for me too, where we have this list of, I think back in like March and April, even before Tears of the Kingdom even came out, a lot of people were basically kind of like, oh, Tears of the Kingdom is it. Like, this is going to be the game of the year. And this is the winner. I think some people were kind of looking at like Lies of P or some other games or Starfield in particular.
Yeah.
These other very highly anticipated games that were coming out. But I think for the first half of the year, like Tears of the Kingdom was like, oh, this is it. So to see this list and just as Sniper in chat says, and then more stuff got released, like more games appeared. And that happens every year. But this year they were good. Now you have like Baldur's Gate 3, you have Super Mario Bros. I'll just say this, like I've said my piece on that. What I'm really surprised at is basically half of this list. Half of this list is a surprise to me because
really,
I'm wondering which three.
Care to guess?
I know which three are to me.
Which
and
ones
I'm
are a surprise to you?
Yeah.
Mario Wonder.
That's one.
Yep.
Alan Wake 2.
That's two.
And Resident Evil 4.
Damn, you actually know me pretty well. And actually, to a degree, I'm a little happily surprised that Spider-Man 2 is on here. I think there has always been a Sony exclusive over the last like 3 or 4 years that has made Game of the Year, and I feel like Insomniac hasn't really ever been I could be totally wrong, but it's not often that I see Insomniac as part of that conversation. Maybe they were up for Game of the Year in 2017. They probably were. Now that I'm saying that, I'm going to make myself look dumb. But I was pleasantly surprised to see Spider-Man 2 in this list. But I think the big three for me was just kind of like Super Mario Brothers Wonder is interesting. Because it's something that, and not in a negative way, again, like I think that Super Mario Brothers Wonder is great. I've enjoyed every single minute that I have played with, because I've been playing the whole thing multiplayer with friends on the couch, and that has been by far an amazing experience. I would almost say, personally speaking, that could win my Game of the Year over Tears of the Kingdom, but that's because of completely different factors. Alan Wake 2, I'm a little shocked, and if you watch my streams, you'll probably understand why. But I think it's also shocking because I just didn't. I think some people
game just came out.
Yeah,
too,
yeah, it came out, and I think like 1 or 2 people were kind of like, "Oh yeah, like this could be a GOTY contender." But I think when people were saying that Baldur's Gate 3, there was a lot of people saying that, and I feel like there was like a couple of people saying that for Alan Wake 2, and then all of a sudden it's here. So that one I was a little shocked at, and then Resident Evil 4 I was pretty shocked at, mainly due to maybe just recency bias. And just the fact that there were so many other games. Like Sea of Stars, I remember so many people being like, oh, this is like GOTY contender or not. Like, this is my Game of the Year. So, like, again, maybe I'm falling into that trap again of just looking at social media as a barometer. But to see Resident Evil 4 on this list, it's great. Like, it's an amazing game. It is an amazing remake. They nailed it. For a game that was amazing the first time.
For a game that didn't need remaking, exactly.
And they nailed it.
Yeah.
See, I think for me, it's really between two games for me. It's between Mario Wonder and Baldur's Gate 3, because I think both of these games are just like, in my head, these are games that, like, we're not going to see games released like these in a long time. And I think especially for Wonder, because, you know, I can't attest for Baldur's Gate 3 because I don't know too much about it other than, like, you know, what went into it. But Mario Wonder, the fact that the devs are like, oh yeah, like, we did not have a deadline. We just made the game. We tried to not reuse any old ideas. Like, that's only Nintendo is afforded that luxury to do something like that. You know what I mean? But that's still
It is very admirable.
But that is, yeah, exactly. That is insanely admirable that could happen. And we got the finished product that's as fun and colorful and creative and really pushes the bar for, you know, 2D platformers is like such a played out genre for, you know, it's like, it's the most basic idea when you think of a video game, but like they elevated it to the next stage to where it's like, oh man, you're excited to see where they go from here. It's the same, I mean, Baldur's Gate 3, I mean, it's really like the best D&D RPG experience that's really out. It's so feature rich, it's character rich, dialogue, world building is insane, where it's like, how could they, like, it's just so far above everything else in its sphere. For me, as someone who's played Tears of the Kingdom and Resident Evil 4 and Spider-Man 2, I guess Spider-Man 2 and Tears of the Kingdom specifically, they are great and they build upon the last game, but there are also some drawbacks to them, and I don't think like, Tears of the Kingdom definitely did, but I feel like they didn't. It's not like it's a brand new experience, but it's also not a brand new experience in the sense of it's built upon something else. Not that that's like they should be starting from scratch. No, but what I'm saying is, like, if they're starting something that's original completely, you know, because the last Baldur's Gate, I think Baldur's Gate 2 was like 20 years ago, and then RE4 was fantastic because like it wasn't just the original RE4 because I mean, that game's already good. It wasn't. They really they reimagined RE4 and they did it amazingly well, but it's still based off of RE4. You know what I mean? Like the DNA is still there. So that's why I feel like Baldur's Gate and Mario, for me at least, speak out more for Game of the Year, but just because of just how, I don't know, innovative they are. You know what I mean?
How long is it going to take before we get a best remake category? And maybe he can call it best legacy game or something.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if he doesn't want to use the word remake, because I think you're right. You know, Resident Evil 4 is more than just a remake. It is, you know, more of a reimagining, but maybe we need a category like that because it's not going to stand on its own against these other games here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too because I had that conversation with my wife yesterday where, you know, people were talking about that specific thing, like, should RE4 deserve to be a part of the Game of the Year conversation because it's a remake? And for me, it's kind of like, well, it really just depends because, like, if the game just completely overhauls the original to the point where either they both can stand side by side or you would never ever play the original ever again. Like, if Nintendo just, like, in 2 years made a The Legend of Zelda remake, took the original NES game, completely just redid it from the ground up, made it 3D, like, did all this other stuff, and it's essentially still, like, it's The Legend of Zelda, but completely redone, and it's great, and it's amazing, then should that not be worth being considered Game of the Year? Yeah. But we're also talking about, like, how many years between remakes are we talking? So, right. And what are you doing with it? So I think, like, again, even if we had a remake category, I could still see a remake being considered Game of the Year. Now, if we were to have this conversation with RE4, I would not have this conversation about The Last of Us Part 1. I'll just tell you that right now.
Well, that's a different
very different conversation.
I will say, for, like, my view on Game of the Year stuff, I would actually argue, while it's not my pick and I don't think it's going to win either, I think Tears of the Kingdom absolutely belongs on the list. I don't really buy the argument of, oh, well, it just feels so much like it's adding on to a game that already existed. I love Like a Dragon. Those games reuse assets like nobody's business. And I love
yeah, that's so true.
And like the thing about Tears of the Kingdom is, if you want to compare to say Spider-Man, both reuse a lot of the same environment. You were talking earlier about, I forget if this is on stream or not, but about like New York, right?
New York too.
There's a logical reason why, because it's New York.
Yeah.
But also still like it's reusing the same place. And I feel like people did say that about Spider-Man, but I feel like it didn't get taken as seriously as when it got said for Tears of the Kingdom, which is weird to me, because it also adds an entire underground area. There's the Sky Islands, and mechanically, it is a much more different game, vastly. Like, I'm not a huge fan of it personally, but all the stuff that they added as far as how you can build things, interact with the environment, and as you said, devs themselves were like, how did you do this on this hardware? I think it 100% belongs. It's not my choice, but it deserves to be there. I would say for me, the one that it's also not my pick, but I feel it's a little snubbed. I get why, because of genres and just what's popular. I feel like Street Fighter 6 should be on the list. I think it executes on the fighting game genre in a way that has not been in a while on all fronts. Accessibility, the tools for introducing new players, just overall, there's some live service aspects I'm not as into, but as far as the core game, it's phenomenal.
It would be very hard for a fighting game to be in this kind of category. I'm not saying it doesn't deserve to be, but
it's hard.
I get why it's not there, but I wish it would be. Smash, I think, is the only one that's broken that barrier because of crossover stuff is cool. I would say as far as what's winning, for me, the two it's between, I think the safe bet, in my mind, Baldur's Gate 3. I just feel like if I had to put money on a safe bet, it's that. If I was putting my money on a risky bet with high returns, Alan Wake 2. 100%.
Wow, really?
I think it's a great. Everyone's saying it's a great game.
It is the best survival horror game in a decade.
Whoa.
I'm saying that.
You're saying that
it is so good.
It came out the same year as Resident Evil 4.
It's better than Resident Evil 4.
Whoa.
Wow.
I love that game. And for the same reasons why you were saying you are happy with Super Mario Wonder, to be honest, because it is a game with the degree of AAA budget, polishing, whatever. I can't believe that they got a publisher to be cool with all the directions they went with that game.
Really?
Like, it is Twin Peaks in video game form in all the best ways possible, with great action horror gameplay. Like, it's not like there are some aspects that are a little weaker than others, but overall, phenomenal game. In my mind, and this is also where the social network thing comes in, because I think who you follow and what your circles are really impacts your perception of these things.
Totally.
A lot of people I follow that are critics, it's like their personal game of the year. I've seen a lot of people where they're like, I like a lot of stuff, but oh man, Alan Wake 2, that's my game of the year. And if those are the people that are on the voting panel, because I don't know.
I was going to say, that's the only opinions that matter. In
I was going to say.
So,
turns out you know some people.
Safe win, but Alan Wake 2, I think it could be a surprise upset that not a lot of people see coming, but I could see it happening.
Yeah, I'll be interested too, because like, again, I really want to drop everything and play Spider-Man 2. Right now, I'm actually just finishing Ragnarok. But that is like a game I really want to play. I actually do really want to play Alan Wake 2 as well. In terms of all of these games, like, yeah, it's honestly really hard for me to choose like the safe bet. It used to be Tears of the Kingdom. I don't think it is anymore. Like, I think this could easily go to Baldur's Gate 3, and I don't think there would be a huge problem with that.
Yeah. I think Baldur's Gate 3 and Tears of the Kingdom are in the same boat, where of like, I think they both do like the whole aspect of like freedom and like there's no right or wrong solution if you just find yourself like incredibly well. I think like the difference is obviously Baldur's Gate 3 is like the more mature end of the spectrum, whereas like Tears of the Kingdom, like even you could throw a kid in front of it and they figure out how to answer eventually, which I think also is like incredible. But like Baldur's Gate 3, I mean, there's so many ways to go about things in that game as well from what I've seen. So I think like that those two, at least what I can see, just because of the sheer freedom you have in both of those games. That's why like I'm sort of looking to those as the picks, even though I personally like out of everything I've played here, I in my heart I would pick Wonder because that's what I would like. But like I think it's between Tears of the Kingdom and Baldur's Gate 3, and then I've seen the critics are like all over Alan Wake 2. It's just, again, I don't have people in my circle that like have really played Alan Wake 2, so I don't really know anything specific about it.
Yeah,
is
that's
really
fair.
good. I'll leave it at that. I
don't
already
have
went off a
anything
little
to
bit.
say
but it's really
that
good.
wasn't already said, but I think it's just great how in June, I thought that Tears of the Kingdom was totally a lock for Game of the Year, and now that we're actually here with this conversation, I feel okay with it not, even though it's the only game that I personally played out of these, just because of how wonderful of a year it has been for
Yeah,
gaming.
I mean,
I think
any
that's a
game here
wonderful
winning.
conversation.
Yeah, any game here winning, I'm like, I'm fine with. Like, I'm seriously happy if any game here wins.
It's
You
a
know what I
great
mean?
conversation
Truly,
to
the
have.
winners are gamers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can definitely tell you if I feel like if Resident Evil 4 or Super Mario Brothers Wonders wins, you're gonna hear about it the next morning. I think like the other ones are pretty safe. Like, yeah, if that wins, I guess it's fine. I'm looking forward to a future where Super Mario Brothers Wonder is Game of the Year or Resident Evil 4 is Game of the Year. Even though it is definitely Game of the Year to some. So I did have a couple of extra questions, but I think we should probably wrap things up. Is there anything that we are looking forward to seeing at Geoff Keighley's Christmas party? Any world premieres?
It's hard because I never know really what to expect in terms of announcements from the Game Awards. It's kind of just whatever happens to be announced there. Like, I don't know. Like, Nintendo really hasn't done anything since Smash Bros, honestly. It's not like Nintendo really does anything at the Game Awards. That's where we got Nintendo Switch has games. Oh boy, thank you.
They've been doing it every year too.
Yeah, I feel like probably Hades 2. I mean, it was announced there. It'll probably show more there. I think Hades 2 is like something I'd be excited to see that like, realistically would be there. Other than that, like I just never know what to expect from Game Awards announcements because usually they're just all over the place, if I'm being honest.
Dat Alpha Lion in chat, the orchestra. Every year I look forward to the mashup of all of the different Game of the Year themes that they do right before they reveal it. That's like my favorite part.
Yeah, that is true. Dead Alpha Island also mentioned that they did announce Fire Emblem Engage's DLC expansion before the game came out.
Oh god.
Yeah,
That's true. That did happen.
I think if Nintendo does announce something, I kind of hope it's just like, oh hey, you guys remember Mario Party Superstars? Here's like 12 more boards. Like, just please give me that. Give me more boards for Mario Party Superstars. Yeah, it's really tough though because we've had so many games come out this year where I just don't even know what could possibly be next, right?
Mm-hmm.
We kind of said that about Nintendo this year, even when we were just all kind of like, oh yeah, like Tears of the Kingdom is going to come out, and then what? We didn't think we were going to get a 2D Mario game this year, and it comes out. Well, boy, this would probably be the year to hear about Metroid Prime 4, huh?
God, could you imagine?
Oh man, I think that would be such an insane. I think even just showing like again that would be insane. But I feel like the problem with Metroid Prime 4, I feel like it's in the limbo of like we already know the next console is coming, so there's no reason why they wouldn't just announce it for the next console.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, if we see anything of the next, I mean, I would doubt it, but if we see anything of a new console at the Game Awards, it'd be pretty sick.
I would be
a
shocked.
huge get for him. I
Yeah.
don't see that happening, but if it did, that'd be a huge get for Geoff.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big deal.
Big win for Geoff.
They showed off the Switch in its own little NX presentation. You know what I mean? So like, yeah,
Nintendo
but
does
it'd be
things on their
crazy.
own pace,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's kind of weird.
It'll be a tweet.
Yeah.
A tweet on oh my god, a
Well,
tweet
wasn't
on
the
a
Switch
random
OLED basically?
Tuesday.
Wasn't Switch
No,
OLED
it
basically
was.
like a press
I know they
release?
teased it, but it was a YouTube video.
Yeah.
So, like that one, they were explicitly like, go to this page and watch the. Yeah, Nintendo Switch has no more games. We're out.
Would be a funny
We're done.
segue into a console announcement.
Yeah.
Actually, Nintendo's just announcing it retires all of it. Just,
Yeah,
now we're done.
Mr.
Yeah.
Nintendo, we're
Everyone-
out of the video games business. All you
This is me.
naysayers were true.
This is Miyamoto, and he comes.
This
on
is
screen.
Miyamoto.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
tired of dealing with your speculation. We're out.
We're out. We're just done. We can't arrest, sue, or murder enough of you, so we're just done. We're out of it.
Mhm.
They'll give Origami King stealth announcement. Yeah, let's get a remake of Origami King. Can we do that?
Yeah, after Thousand Year Door, what if they're like, that's right, guys. We're remaking the next game. That's right. We're remaking the Origami King.
Origami King.
Please understand, we have to delay the
understand.
1,000-year door in order to make this happen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This was a very clear priority by you gamers because you talked so much about how you like Sticker Star and Origami King.
Stop it.
Loud and clear, gamers. Yeah, Geoff is just like, you can thank me later. Do you think we're going to get any Kojima stuff this year?
Oh, Death Stranding 2.
Yeah,
We have
there
to.
could be an update on that.
Oh.
Yeah.
He also has, there's supposedly another project that I think is with Xbox, so maybe that could be there. Yeah, who knows what Kojima's up to.
Oh,
these
yeah,
days,
the
so
cloud
that's pretty
game.
cool.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, and who knows where that is in production. I mean, it could be still ways off. I just know that was talked about in the past. So
Yeah. And
maybe
Xbox.
just bring out Del Toro. Just to have him. Like, I like Del Toro. Just he'll hang out.
Mhm.
Yeah, any other special guest stars? Who was it last year? Robert De Niro?
Al Pacino.
Al Pacino, that's what it was.
Who was up there?
Yeah, who's
didn't
gonna
know
be
it,
Al
like he was
Pacino this
lost.
year?
Yeah.
Oh, that was
Al
wild.
Pacino.
He's been here this whole time. We just let him on the stage and we called him an Uber home.
Let's hope Geoff actually has security at his events for
Stage
once.
security. He needs it. It actually could get very scary if he doesn't.
We're actually insanely
great.
lucky that nothing like ostensibly terrible has happened. Like honestly.
No, twice as too many times, and especially for the people that are like the devs that are guests.
Yeah.
They're gonna stop wanting to be involved and take risks because sure, it was just kind of funny meme stuff the last two times, but if they can do that just to do that,
Yeah.
what else could happen, and that's a very serious security thing. So I feel like he's gotta like batch it down a little more this year because
Yeah,
Wild.
and maybe just have people up against the stage this time instead of waiting 15 minutes for people to storm it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Boys will be boys. At least they made the last guy go poof. Yeah. You'll never hear from him again. Maybe Geoff Keighley likes it. I don't know. But what I do know is that we are all going to be either pleasantly surprised or extremely disappointed. And the other thing I do know is that no matter what happens, Xbox will still take a big fat L. But deserved. I'm still paying $18 a month on Game Pass. Maybe I'm the idiot. But anyway, thank you.
Hi-Fi Rush.
I'm paying $18 a month for Hi-Fi Rush and for Redfall. Oh my goodness. I'm just waiting here for the fire. Yeah, well, I didn't start it. So thank you guys so much for being here with me and talking video games. I really do appreciate you guys. This obviously went over a little bit longer. They always do. But I'm very glad that you guys were able to put up with me for so long, especially you guys in chat. Real quick go around. Let's talk about our guests here and what they're up to and where you can find them. And we'll start with you, Rebecca.
You can find me at forestminish on Twitter and Twitch and most other places. I like video games. Talk to me about them.
I do. Kevin, where can we find you and what are you up to?
You can just find me on Kevin Kenson everywhere I'm at. Twitter, X, whatever it's called now, Instagram, YouTube is the main thing, of course. I'm working on a lot of PlayStation stuff right now because they're releasing a bunch of things this month and December so keeping up with all that. Portal's tomorrow.
Can't wait for that.
And I was not prepared for how long we talked, so my MacBook's at 4% battery. I might just disappear at some point.
No!
You don't know.
Oh, well, at least we got your plug in, so. And then, Ultimate, where can we find you? What are you up to?
Hello, I am UltimaShadowX on Twitter. I do a lot of journalism and I've been streaming more on Twitch. So UltimaShadow on Twitch. My Twitter has all my links in one place, but UltimaShadow on Twitch. I'm gonna be playing through Yakuza games very soon, so I'm excited to start with those. But yeah, so thank you for having me again. I always have fun.
Yeah, anytime. And then if you want to find me, I gotta go fast through this. You can find me at LaughingBoyLP on Twitter. You can find me at LaughingBoyLP on Twitch, YouTube, as well as TikTok. And again, that's if you want to find me in the podcast, you can just subscribe to this channel at youtube.com/LaughingBoyLP. You can watch the video version of this podcast and previous episodes including a special Q&A session for those of you who tune in live. You can also find the audio-only version of the podcast on Spotify, again, wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for DialogBOX, all one word. You're getting ready for Thursday's Legend of Dragoon finale. That's right! I'm forcing my wife to play through all of the games that she stopped playing when she was a child. She still She still has her PlayStation 1 memory card, so we're just going through all those games that she got Disc 3 syndrome in and curing her of it.
That's awesome.
But you can find that on twitch.tv/LaughingboyLP as well. So we're and until then, come back next month for more video game table talking. But this has been another fantastic episode 45 of DialogBOX. Thank you guys again, and good night. Where's the... Oh, right. I forgot. I don't have the right button. Hold on. Let me go to my ending screen. Over.